John chapter 11. Now there was a certain one sick, Lazarus from Bethany, from the village of Martha and Mary, her sister. Now it was Mary, she who anointed the Lord with ointment, and who wiped dry his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was sick. Therefore the sisters sent word to him, saying, Lord, behold, he of whom you are fond is sick. And Jesus, having heard, said, This sickness is not with reference to death, but for the sake of the glory of God, in order that the Son of God might be glorified through it. Now Jesus was loving Martha and her sister and Lazarus with a love divine in its essence and self-sacrificial in its nature. Therefore, when he heard that he was ill, at that time he remained in the place where he was 2 days. Then after this he says to the disciples, Let us be going into Judea again. The disciples say to him, Rabbi, the Jews were but now seeking to stone you, and again are you going there? Answered Jesus, Are there not 12 hours of daytime? If a person is walking about in the day, he does not stumble, because the light of this world he sees. But if a person is walking about in the night, he stumbles, because the light just mentioned is not in him. These things he said, and after this he says to them, Lazarus, our friend, has fallen asleep. But I am setting out in order that I may awaken him. Then the disciples said to him, Lord, since he has fallen asleep, he will recover. However, Jesus had spoken of his death. But those supposed that he was speaking of taking rest in sleep. Then therefore Jesus said to them plainly, Lazarus died, and I am rejoicing for your sakes that I was not there, in order that you may believe. But let us be going to him. Then Thomas, the one commonly called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, Let us also be going in order that we may die with him. Then Jesus, having come, found that he had been already 4 days in the tomb. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles. And many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary in order to console them concerning their brother. Then Martha, when she heard that Jesus is coming, went and met him. But Mary kept on sitting in the house. Then Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother in that case would not have died. And now I know positively that whatever you may ask God, God will give it to you. Jesus says to her, Your brother will arise. Martha says to him, I know of a surety that he will arise in the resurrection on the last day. Jesus said to her, I myself am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me, even if he die, shall live. And everyone who lives and believes on me shall positively never die. Do you believe this? She says to him, Yes, Lord. As for myself, I have believed and do so now that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who comes into this world. And having said this, she went off and secretly called Mary her sister, saying, The teacher is present and is calling for you. Now when that one heard, she arises quickly and went on her way to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha met him. Therefore the Jews, those who were with her in the house and were consoling her, having seen Mary that she had arisen quickly and had gone out, followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb in order to weep there. Then Mary, when she came where Jesus was, having seen him, fell at his feet, saying to him, Lord, if you had been here, in that case my brother would not have died. Then Jesus, when he saw her weeping audibly, and the Jews who had come with her weeping audibly, was moved with indignation in his spirit, and deeply troubled himself, and said, Where have you laid him? They say to him, Lord, be coming and see. Jesus burst into tears and wept silently. Then the Jews were saying, Behold, how fond he was of him. But certain ones of them said, Was not this man able, who opened the eyes of the one who was blind, to have caused that even this one should not die? Jesus, again moved with indignation in himself, comes to the tomb. Now it was a cave, and a stone was lying upon it. Jesus says, Remove the stone at once. The sister of the one who died, Martha, says to him, Lord, already there is an offensive odor, for it is 4 days. Jesus says to her, Did I not say to you that if you would believe, you will see the glory of God? Then they lifted up the stone and took it away. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you because you heard me. Moreover, I knew positively that you always hear me. But on account of the crowd which is standing around, I spoke, in order that they may come to believe that you sent me on a mission. And having said these things, he shouted with a great voice, Lazarus, here, out. there came out the dead man, bound securely as to his feet and his hands with swathing bands, and his face was bound around with a handkerchief. Jesus says to them, "Untie him at once and permit him to be departing." Therefore, many of the Jews, those who had come to Mary and had viewed attentively that which he did, believed in him. But certain ones among them went off to the Pharisees and told them the things which Jesus did. Therefore the chief priests and the Pharisees convoked a council and were saying, "What are we doing? For this man is performing many attesting miracles. If we disregard him in this manner, all will believe in him, and the Romans will come and take away both our place and our nation." But a certain one of them, Caiaphas, being chief priest that year, said to them, "As for you, you do not know even one thing, nor do you take into account the fact that it is to your interest that one man die on behalf of the people, and that not the whole nation be destroyed." But this from himself as a source he did not speak, but being chief priest that year, he predicted that Jesus was about to be dying on behalf of the nation, and not on behalf of the nation only, but in order that also the children of God, which have been scattered abroad, he might gather together into one. Therefore from that day they took counsel together to be killing him off. Therefore Jesus no longer walked about openly among the Jews, but went off from there into the country near the uninhabited region to a city called Ephraim, and there he dwelt with his disciples. Now there was near the Passover of the Jews, and many went up to Jerusalem out of the country before the Passover, in order that they might ceremonially purify themselves. Then they went to seeking Jesus, and were conversing with one another as they stood in the temple. "What do you think? He certainly will not come to the feast, will he?" Now the chief priests and the Pharisees had given commandments to the effect that if anyone knows where he is, he should make it known, in order that they might apprehend him. Now Jesus, 6 days before the Passover, came to Bethany where Lazarus was, whom Jesus raised out from among the dead. So they made him there a meal at eventide, supper. And Martha was serving, but Lazarus was one of those who were at the table with him. Then Mary, having taken a pound of nard ointment, unadulterated, very valuable, spread it on the feet of Jesus, rubbed it in, and dried his feet with her hair. And the house was filled with the aroma of the ointment. Then Judas the Iscariot, one of his disciples, the one who was about to be betraying him, says, "Why was not this ointment sold for 300 denarii and given to poor people?" But he said this not because he was concerned about the poor, but because he was a pilferer, and holding the purse, purloined the things thrown in. Then Jesus said, "Let her alone. It was in order that with a view to the day of the preparation of my body for entombment, she might take care of it. For the poor always you have with you, but me you do not always have." Then the common people among the Jews learned that he was there, and they came, not only because of Jesus, but also in order that they might see Lazarus, whom Jesus raised out from among the dead. But the chief priests took counsel to kill Lazarus also, since many of the Jews, because of him, went away and were believing in Jesus. The next day, the common people who came to the feast, having heard that Jesus is coming into Jerusalem, took the branches of the palm trees and went out with a view to meeting him. And they kept on shouting, "Save now! Let him who comes in the name of the Lord, the one who in times past has been eulogized, be regarded as such at present, even the King of Israel." And Jesus, having found a young donkey, sat upon it, even as it stands written, "Stop fearing, daughter of Zion. Behold, your king is coming, seated upon a donkey's colt." These things his disciples did not understand at the first. But when Jesus was glorified, then they remembered that these things had been written of him and were on record, and that these things they did to him. Then the crowd, which was with him when he called Lazarus out from the tomb and raised him out from among the dead, kept on bearing testimony. On this account also the crowd went and met him, because they heard that he had performed this attesting miracle. Therefore the Pharisees said to one another, "Be considering that you are not doing even one thing that would be of help to us. Look, the world went away after him." Now there were some among those who went up, Greeks, for the purpose of worshipping at the feast. Then these went to Philip, the one from Bethsaida of Galilee, and they were requesting him, saying, "Sir, we are desiring to see Jesus." Philip goes and tells Andrew. Andrew goes and Philip, and they tell Jesus. And Jesus answered them, saying, "The hour has come and is here, in order that the Son of Man be glorified. Most assuredly, I am saying to you, unless the grain of wheat, having fallen into the earth, die, it itself remains alone. But if it die, much fruit it bears. He who is fond of his soul life is losing it, and he who is hating his soul life in the sphere of this world with a view to life eternal is preserving it safe and unimpaired. If anyone habitually serves me, let him as a habit of life keep on following with me, and where I am, there also the servant who is mine shall be. If anyone is serving me, him will the Father honor. Now has my soul been troubled, with the result that it is in a state of agitation. And what shall I say? Father, save me, in and through and out of this hour. Certainly, on account of this I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Then there came a voice out of heaven. I both glorified it and will again glorify it. Then the crowd, the ones standing by and hearing, was saying, Thunder has come to pass. Others were saying, An angel has spoken to him. Answered Jesus and said, Not on my account has this voice come, but for your sakes. Now is a judgment of this world. Now the ruler of this world will be thrown out, clean out. And as for myself, when I am lifted up out from underneath the earth, all men I will draw to myself. And this he was saying, indicating what sort of death he was about to be dying. Then the crowd answered him, As for us, we heard out of the law that the Christ lives forever. And how is it that you are saying it is a necessity in the nature of the case for the Son of Man to be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? Therefore Jesus said to them, Yet a little time the light is among you. Be ordering your behavior according as you are having the light, in order that darkness may not overtake you. Indeed, he who is ordering his behavior within the sphere of the darkness just mentioned does not know where he is departing. According as you are having the aforementioned light, be believing in the light, in order that you may become sons of light. These things Jesus spoke, and having gone off, he was hidden from them. But in spite of the fact that he had performed so many attesting miracles before them, they kept on not believing on him, in order that the word of Isaiah the prophet might be fulfilled, who said, Lord, who believed our preaching? And the Lord's power, to whom was it revealed? On account of this, they were not able to be believing, because again, said Isaiah, he has blinded their eyes, with the present result that they are still blind. And he hardened their heart, in order that they might not see with their eyes and perceive with the heart, and change their mind, and I should heal them. These things said Isaiah, because he saw his glory, and he spoke concerning him. Yet nevertheless, even from among the rulers, many believed on him. But because of the Pharisees, they kept on not confessing, in order that they might not become those excluded from the synagogue. For they deemed precious the good opinion of men, rather than the good opinion of God. And Jesus called out aloud and said, He who believes on me does not believe on me, but on him who sent me. And he who is contemplating me with discernment is contemplating with discernment him who sent me. I, in contradistinction to all others, have come a light into the world, in order that everyone who places his trust in me may not remain in the sphere of the darkness. And if anyone hears my words and does not keep them, I am not judging him, for I did not come to be judging the world, but in order that I might save the world. He who rejects me and does not receive my words has the one who judges him. The word which I spoke, that will judge him on the last day, because as for myself, not from myself as a source did I speak, but he who sent me, the Father himself, has given me a commandment, what I should say and what I should speak. And I know with a positive knowledge that his commandment is life eternal. Therefore, the things which I am speaking, just as the Father has spoken to me, thus do I speak. Now, before the feast of the Passover, Jesus, since he knew that his hour had come, the purpose of which was that he should pass over out of this world to the Father, having loved with a divine self-sacrificial love his uniquely owned ones, those in the world, he loved them to the uttermost. And supper being in progress, the devil, having already hurled into the heart of Judas Iscariot, son of Simon, with a force so that it stayed there, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that all things the Father gave into his hands, and that from God he had come, and to God he was departing, arises from the supper, and lays aside his outer garments, and having taken a towel, he bound it around himself. Next, he throws water into the basin, and began to be washing the feet of the disciples, and to be wiping them off with a towel with which he was girdled. So he comes to Simon Peter. He says to him, "You, my feet you are washing?" Answered Jesus and said to him, "That which I am doing, as for you, not now do you know with an absolute and complete knowledge, but you shall learn by experience after these things." Peter says to him, "You shall by no means wash my feet. No, never." Jesus answered him, "If I do not wash you, you do not have a part with me." Simon Peter says to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus says to him, "He who has been bathed all over stays bathed and does not have need except to wash his feet, but is entirely clean. And as for you, you are clean ones, but not all." For he knew the one who was betraying him. On this account he said, "Not all are clean ones." Then when he had washed their feet and had taken his outer garments and had taken his place at the table again, he said to them, "Do you understand what I've done to you? You call me the teacher and the Lord, and well do you say, for I am. Since therefore I, the Lord and the teacher, washed your feet, you also have a moral obligation to be washing one another's feet. For I gave to you an example that just as I did to you, you also should be doing. Most assuredly I am saying to you, a slave is not greater than his master, nor even one who is sent on a mission greater than the one who sent him. Since you know these things, spiritually prosperous ones you are if you are doing them. Not concerning all of you am I speaking. I know whom I selected, but in order that the scripture may be fulfilled, he who eats bread with me lifted up his heel against me. From now on I am telling you before it comes to pass, in order that you might be believing whenever it comes to pass that I am. Most assuredly I am saying to you, he who receives whomever I shall send, me he receives, and the one who receives me receives him who sent me." Having said these things, Jesus was distressed in his spirit and testified and said, "Most assuredly I am saying to you, one of you shall betray me." The disciples kept on looking to one another, being at a loss concerning whom he was speaking. There was one of his disciples reclining on the bosom of Jesus, whom Jesus loved. Therefore Simon Peter nods to this one and says to him, "Tell me who it is concerning whom he is speaking." That one, having leaned thus on the breast of Jesus, says to him, "Lord, who is it?" Then Jesus answers, "That one it is, for whom I will dip the morsel and to whom I will give it." Then, having dipped the morsel, he takes it and gives it to Judas, son of Simon Iscariot. And after the morsel, then there entered into that one Satan. Then Jesus says to him, "That which you are doing, do at once, and more quickly." Now no one of those at the table understood with reference to what he spoke this to him. For certain were thinking that since Judas held the purse, Jesus said to him, "Purchase in the market what things we need for the feast," or that he should give something to the poor. Then, having taken the morsel, that one went out immediately, and it was night. Then when he had gone out, Jesus says, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. Since God is glorified in him, God also will glorify him in himself, and forthwith will glorify him. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You shall seek me. And even as I said to the Jews, where I am departing you are not able to come, so now I am telling you. A commandment, a new one I am giving you, that you should be constantly loving one another with a divine and self-sacrificial love, even as I loved you. You also be loving one another. In this all shall know that you are my disciples, if you constantly have love among one another." Simon Peter says to him, "Lord, where are you departing?" Answered Jesus, "Where I am departing, you are not able now to follow with me, but you shall follow later." Peter says to him, "Lord, why am I not able to follow you right now? My life on your behalf I will lay down." Answered Jesus, "Your life on behalf of me you will lay down? Most assuredly, I am saying to you, a rooster shall positively not crow until you deny me 3 times. Let not your heart continue to be agitated. Be putting your trust in God. Also be putting your trust in me. In the house of my Father there are many dwelling places. Indeed, if it were not so, in that case I would have told you, for I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, again I will come and will receive you to myself, in order that where I am, also you may be. And where I am departing, you know the road." Thomas says to him, Lord, we do not know where you are going. How is it possible for us to know the road? Jesus says to him, I alone, in contradistinction to all others, am the road and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you had learned to know me through experience, in that case also my Father you would have come to know. From now on, you are beginning to know him and have seen him with discernment. Philip says to him, Lord, show us the Father at once, and it is sufficient for us. Jesus says to him, such a long time I am with you, yet you have not come to have an experiential knowledge of me, Philip? He who has discerningly seen me has seen the Father with discernment. How is it that you are saying, show us the Father at once? Do you not believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words which I am speaking to you, not from myself as a source am I speaking, but the Father who in me is abiding is doing his works. Be believing me that I am in the Father and that the Father is in me. But if not, because of the works themselves be believing. Most assuredly I am saying to you, he who believes in me, the works which I am constantly doing, also that one shall do. And greater than these shall he do, because I am proceeding to the Father. And whatever you may ask in my name, this I will do, in order that the Father may be glorified in the Son. If you ask me anything in my name, I will do it. If you are loving me with a divine and self-sacrificial love, the commandments which are mine you will keep. And as for myself, I will ask the Father, and another counselor of the same kind as I am, he will give it to you, in order that he might be with you forever, the Spirit of truth, whom the world is not able to receive because it does not see him with discernment and does not know him experientially. But as for you, you know him experientially, because by your side he dwells, and in you he shall be. I will not leave you behind helpless. I come to you. Yet a little while, and the world no longer sees me, but as for you, you see me. Because I live, also you shall live. In that day you shall know experientially that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you. He who has my commandments and habitually keeps them, that one is he who is loving me with a divine and self-sacrificial love. And he who is loving me thus shall be loved with the same kind of love by my Father, and I shall love him with a divine and self-sacrificial love, and I shall disclose myself to him. Judas says to him, not Iscariot, Lord, and what has come to pass, that to us you are about to be disclosing yourself, and not to the world? Answered Jesus and said to him, if anyone as a habit of life loves me with a divine and self-sacrificial love, my word he will keep, and my Father will love him, and to him we shall come, and an abiding place with him we shall make for ourselves. He who is not habitually loving me with a divine and self-sacrificial love, my words he is not keeping. And the word which you are hearing is not mine, but belongs to him who sent me, the Father. These things I have spoken to you while abiding with you, and the Counselor, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, that one will teach you all things, and recall to your mind all things which I spoke to you. Peace I am leaving behind for you. Peace which is mine I am giving to you. Not such as the world gives do I give to you. Let not your heart continue to be agitated, neither let it continue to be fearful. You heard that I said to you, I am departing and I am coming to you. If you were loving me, you would in that case already have rejoiced that I am proceeding to the Father, for the Father is greater than I. And now I have told you before it comes to pass, in order that whenever it does come to pass, you may believe. Many things no longer will I speak with you, for there comes the ruler of the world, and in me he has nothing. But in order that the world may come to know experientially that I love the Father, and even as the Father commanded me, thus I am doing. Be arising, let us be going from this place. I, in contradistinction to anyone else, am the vine, the genuine vine, and my Father is the tiller of the soil. Every branch in me not bearing fruit he takes away, and every branch bearing fruit he cleanses it, in order that it may keep on bearing more fruit. As for you, already you are cleansed once because of the word which I have spoken to you. Maintain a living communion with me, and I with you. Just as the branch is unable to be bearing fruit from itself as a source, unless it remains in a living union with the vine, so neither you, unless you maintain a living communion with me. As for myself, I am the vine. As for you, you are the branches. He who maintains a living communion with me, and I with him, this one is bearing much fruit. because apart from me, you are not able to be doing anything. If anyone is not maintaining a living communion with me, he was thrown outside as the branch is, and was caused to wither. And they gather them, and into the fire they throw them, and they are burned. If you maintain a living communion with me, and my words are at home in you, I command you to ask at once something for yourself, whatever your heart desires, and it will become yours. In this my Father is glorified, namely, that you are bearing much fruit. So shall you become my disciples. Just as the Father loved me, I also loved you. Remain within the sphere of the love which is mine. If my commandments you keep, you will remain within the sphere of my love, just as I have kept the commandments of my Father and am remaining within the sphere of his love. These things have I spoken to you, that the joy which is mine may be in you, and that your joy may be filled full. This is the commandment which is mine, namely, that you should be loving one another with a divine and self-sacrificial love, just as I loved you. Greater love than this no one has, namely, that anyone laid down his life on behalf of his friends. As for you, friends of mine you are, if you habitually do that which I am enjoining upon you. No longer do I call you slaves, because a slave does not have an instinctive perception of what his master is doing. But you I have called friends, because all things which I heard from my Father I made known to you. You did not make me the object of your choice for yourselves, but I selected you out for myself, and I appointed you, in order that you might be going away and constantly bearing fruit, and that your fruit might be remaining, in order that whatever you might ask the Father in my name, he may give it you. These things I am enjoining upon you, namely, that you should be loving one another with a divine and self-sacrificial love. If, as is the case, the world is hating you, you know by experience that me it has hated, and still does before it hated you. If out of the world you were, the world in that case would be fond of that which is its own private possession. But because out of the world you are not, but I selected you for myself out of the world, on this account the world hates you. Be remembering the word which I spoke to you. A slave is not greater than his master. Since me they persecuted, also you they will persecute. Assuming that they kept my word, also yours they will keep. But these things, all of them, they will do to you on account of all that I am in my person, because they do not know the one who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, sin they would not have had. But now they do not have an excuse for their sin. He who hates me hates my Father also. If I did not do the works among them which no other one did, sin they would not have had. But now they have both seen and hated both me and my Father, and they still maintain that attitude of hate. But in order that the word which in their law stands written might be fulfilled, they hated me without just cause. Whenever the Counselor comes, whom I shall send to you from the presence of the Father, the Spirit of truth, who from the Father's presence proceeds, that one will testify concerning me. And you also are bearing testimony, because from the beginning with me you are.